Welcome to TGIF.
Here we are, chapter 10 of Leviticus, episode 2. Have you all been reading with us?
Sitting on the edge of their seats in suspense.
It's Leviticus. It's super, super exciting. Well, today we're going to talk about something that y'all might be real good at, but it is something I do not like to make, and that is...
Takes us to the word of the day, which is decisions.
I mean, where are we going for lunch? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. What do you want? Do you want this or that? Well, what do you want? I mean, we play that game all the time, and I use that loosely because it's about food. But we're also in a big decision-making process right now with some things going on, and it's hard when you think about decisions, and you want to make the decision that's right within the wheel of God's plan. And you know, is it this way or is it this way? Could there be two right ways? And decisions are hard.
And we have a hard decision. We're in Leviticus, and we're just focusing on one chapter today, chapter 10, because it's heavy, and it can be one of those chapters where you think, man, that was really, I mean, did they do something that awful, that terrible? But we are looking at Leviticus chapter 10, and we're looking right at the beginning of verse 1. Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, put coals of fire in their incense burners and sprinkled incense over them. In this way, they disobeyed the Lord by burning before him the wrong kind of fire, different than he had commanded them. What we know is that in the next instant, in the next verse, boom, fire consumes them. They're dead. They're gone. And you think, man, that was a bad decision on their part. That was a really bad decision. But they have a big responsibility, and they've been given specific instructions on how to carry it. The censer is a container that the incense were burned in, and you may see it today if you see a Catholic ceremony, a high church, a real formal church setting. You'll see the priests waving the little incense. That it's a beautiful little container, and you'll see smoke coming out of it, and he kind of is swinging it. And there's a very specific protocol for that, when it's used and how it's used, and that's how it was in the day as well. So failure to conduct a divine worship carefully cost these brothers their lives.
Wow.
And that's hard to understand when we say, okay, how do we fit this into our lives today? Because today we make all sorts of decisions, some huge decisions, some small decisions, but we always want to make the best decision. And I think for people that are following Christ, they want to make a godly decision.
Right.
And I think that's where it gets really challenging when we hear something like this. We think, man, that was a severe punishment for something, but they had a big responsibility as well. Just like the leaders of the church, we have big responsibilities, and we have to be careful on how we conduct our lives. And I fall short all the time. That's why you always hear me confessing on a Sunday morning, confessing that I fall short and I'm not perfect, and I'm always trying to do, and I gathered in this, the brothers were not in that frame of mind. And it sounded like this is something they took upon themselves, as it would be like a, you know, something that they could honor God. So bad decision. One costing the brothers their lives. So how does this scripture speak to us today? And do we even understand the incense burning? Maybe the Catholics are the only ones that have it right. Maybe the formal church is the only one that has it right. Not so much, because we have Christ, and we have 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 15. I encourage you to go read, even on a little bigger section in there to understand, but this letter that Paul is writing. Our lives are Christ-like fragrances rising up to God. That's what we got to put this in perspective. That's where we got to take this Leviticus and say, okay, my life, is it a fragrance to God?
Right. And do I connect it back to this scripture? If my life isn't a fragrance to God, we know what happened to them, but thankfully we have Jesus, we have the cross, and we have the forgiveness. We're in a different time living on this side of the cross, but it really should make us think about the decisions that we do make. I like in the scripture where it said when they had the wrong kind of fire. I think about a fire. There's nothing wrong with the fire, right? The wrong kind of fire. Okay, there's nothing wrong with fire. But I think about the things that we like to do that are good. We're going through the fruit of the Spirit now, and as you all know, if you are following, if you're with us in service, you know that. And, you know, talking about goodness, you know, being good versus the goodness of God. So being good is good. Be good. But if you're not being good for the reasons of God's calling you through his goodness to be good, it's different. So it's almost like we might be the wrong kind of good or the wrong kind of kind. Think about when we do things for people. Is my kindness because I have to do that and she annoys me or he annoys me or that coworker or something happens and you do it, but you're doing it because it's just what I'm supposed to do. If that is in your heart, what kind of fragrance are you really, really radiating? That fragrance being, what do people see in and through you on how you live your life?
Yeah, do you look like a positive, encouraging kind of a person? Are you putting off a fragrance to others around you that they're like, oh, why are you so positive, encouraging in this moment? Why are you so uplifting? Had a hospital visit with that very same thing just the other day, and having a great conversation, Christian conversation, and the bed next to us was just in turmoil and just chaos. And in the end, we were putting off some kind of fragrance to them because they asked for prayer.
I love that.
And so somehow that's how God works in mysterious ways, yes, but it's God's way of using us being a good fragrance to the Lord.
Absolutely. So we can put off a bad fragrance, a very foul fragrance. And I think the way we respond to situations, the way we respond to people when it's not our way, because dang, I like my way.
Yeah.
And if I make a decision that isn't the best way, I like to make sure I can figure out how to blame somebody else for it.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of, it's almost like the wrong kind of fire, like the scripture's talking about.
Exactly.
So how do we get up every day and live and experience the goodness of God, the kindness of God, the joy of God, the love of God? Because we are going to mess up. I mean, no matter what, people are going to get on your last nerve. Family, a lot of times it's within family and working through situations, but it's just that acknowledging each and every day what Jesus Christ did for us, what God sent his son to do for us, that I can get up or step out of a situation where I was maybe made a bad decision, and I can say, God, I need you. Jesus, walk with me. And we can draw closer and continue to do that over and over. Like, God's never going to get tired of us doing that. Like, I do wish we could just pray, Lord, just tell me the right decision. And, I mean, we do pray. God does use people and use scripture and speak to our hearts. We know that some people hear him audibly, some people through the heart, and we all experience God in a different way. But even then, sometimes it's like, well, I think this is what God, but I don't know, we don't know. So it's within that, as long as you're drawing closer to the Lord through it, you're trying to live your life in the will of God with the goodness of God because you're connected to him.
Remembering we were designed for purpose, right? That's
Absolutely.
what this is all about, our whole topic of going through the Bible. Designed for purpose. This is exactly designed for purpose. You were designed for purpose.
I was designed for purpose. You were designed for purpose. Y'all were designed for purpose. And does that purpose radiate a fragrance that draws others to the Lord? Is your fragrance reflecting you and your total being, your sacrificial living to the Lord? But are you doing it because you're supposed to? Is it the wrong kind? Or is it because God's called you to something more than this horizontal life that we're in? Like, I like that we can take something out of Leviticus that, oh Lordy, Leviticus, and then take it, but that's just really stuck out to me, and this is that they had the wrong kind of fire, and we know what happened to them. But I need to make sure that even good things, I can do it for the wrong reasons, and I can have the wrong kind of good, the wrong kind of kindness. It needs to be what God's doing in and through me, because then the fragrance is going to be what God needs it to be for the people that are around me. That works.
I like it.
That works.
I like it.
All right, so we're going to leave you with this question. How is your fragrance to the Lord? What do you need to think about in your life, in your daily personal walk with Jesus, that, maybe your fragrance is all about your fragrance and not the fragrance of the Lord through you?
Must be a sweet smell to the Lord.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time on TGIF. Keep reading in Leviticus. On to chapter 11 you go. Bye.